Many old people prefer simple food, not rich meals, not heavy dishes, not too many flavors, just simple food, soft bread, plain rice, light soup, a little tea. And for many younger people, this feels confusing because they think, now they have time, now they can enjoy good food. But old people often move in the opposite direction. They simplify. And this is not just about taste. It is about the mind, the body, and something much deeper. As people grow older, their relationship with food changes. Food is no longer excitement. It becomes comfort. When they were younger, food was activity, going out, trying new dishes, exploring taste. But with age, the body slows down. Digestion becomes weaker. Heavy food feels heavy, not just in the stomach, in the whole body. After a rich meal, they feel tired, slow, uncomfortable. So naturally, they begin to choose food that feels light, easy, safe. Now here is something very important. Taste itself changes with age. The tongue becomes less sensitive. Flavors feel weaker. Spicy food may feel too strong. Sweet food may feel too much. So they reduce intensity. They move toward balance. Simple food gives that balance. It does not shock the system. It does not demand effort. It just sits gently. And this gentleness matters more than we realize. Because old age is not just physical, it is mental. The mind also becomes sensitive. Too much noise, too much change, too much stimulation. All of it becomes tiring. So they begin to remove complexity from their life. Not only in food, in everything. Fewer choices, fewer decisions, fewer complications. Simple food is part of this pattern. Now think about this. A young person may enjoy a table full of dishes, different colors, different smells, different tastes. But for an older person, this can feel overwhelming. Too many options, too much thinking. What should I eat first? Will this upset my stomach? Is this too spicy? Instead of joy, it creates tension. So they choose one simple meal, something familiar, something predictable. And in that predictability, they feel peace. Now there is also a strong connection between food and memory. Old people often prefer food they have eaten for years, food from their past, childhood meals, family recipes, simple home cooking, because these foods carry something deeper, not just taste. They carry memory. A simple dish can bring back a whole time, a kitchen, a person, a moment. And when life becomes quieter, these small emotional connections become very important. So simple food is not boring for them. It is meaningful. It feels like home. Even if everything else has changed, that taste remains the same. And that gives stability. Now let's go deeper. As people age, control becomes very important. Many things in life start changing without their choice. Health, energy, memory. So they hold on to what they can control. Food is one of those things. By choosing simple food, they feel in control. They know how their body will react. No surprises, no discomfort. This sense of control brings calmness, and calmness becomes more valuable than pleasure. Now there is also a social side. Eating heavy or fancy meals often requires energy. Going out, sitting for long, talking. But old people may not have the same energy. They get tired faster, so they prefer shorter, simpler meals. Less effort, less strain, and slowly this becomes a habit. They build a routine, same time, same food, same pattern. This routine gives structure, and structure gives security. Now here is something emotional. Many old people have experienced loss. Loss of people, loss of moments, loss of time. So they become less interested in temporary pleasure. Fancy food feels temporary. It is exciting for a moment, then it is gone. But simple food feels steady. It does not try to impress. It just stays. And this quiet consistency feels more comforting. Now think about digestion again. The body in old age does not process food the same way. Heavy oil, spices, sugar, these things can cause discomfort. Acidity, bloating, restlessness. So they learn from experience. They notice what feels right, and slowly they move towards simplicity, not by force, by understanding. This is a kind of wisdom, not learned from books, learned from living. Now there is also a psychological shift. Young people often eat for excitement. Old people eat for balance, for health, for stability, for routine. Food becomes functional, but not in a cold way, in a peaceful way. They are no longer chasing strong experiences. They are protecting their inner comfort. And this changes everything. Even the way they sit, the way they eat slowly, the way they chew carefully. There is less rush, less urgency, because their relationship with time has changed. They are not in a hurry anymore. So food also becomes slower, simpler, more mindful. Now here is something very quiet but very real. Sometimes old people eat less because they feel alone. Food tastes different when shared. A simple meal with someone feels rich, but a rich meal alone can feel empty. So when social life reduces, the desire for fancy food also reduces, because the emotional part is missing. And without that, food becomes just food. So they keep it simple. Now look at this carefully. When an old person chooses simple food, it is not because they don't know better. It is because they know exactly what they need. They are not trying to impress anyone. They are not trying to follow trends. They are simply listening to their body and their mind. And both are asking for ease, for calm, for comfort. So they respond to that, quietly, naturally. And maybe there is something to learn here. That in the end, after all the complexity of life, after all the noise, all the chasing, people return to simple things, simple food, simple moments, simple peace, because that is where the mind finally rests. Not in excess, not in variety, but in quiet satisfaction. And that is why, for many old people, a simple meal is not just enough, it is everything they need. Over time, this preference for simple food becomes more than a habit. It becomes a part of their identity. They begin to say things like, "I don't like heavy food anymore. Just give me something light." And behind these words, there is a deeper shift happening. They are not just choosing food, they are choosing a lifestyle, a slower one, a calmer one, a more controlled one. Now think about the role of routine again. Old people often eat the same meal every day, same breakfast, same lunch, same dinner. For a younger person, this may feel boring, but for them, it feels safe. There is no uncertainty, no need to think too much, no risk. And as the mind ages, this reduction in decision-making becomes very comforting, because decision-making takes energy, and energy is limited now, so they preserve it. They use it carefully, not on food choices, but on things that matter more to them, like thinking, like remembering, like simply getting through the day with ease. Now, there is another subtle reason. Simple food is easier to trust. Trust becomes very important in old age. They trust what they have known for years, what has never harmed them, what their body understands. Fancy food, on the other hand, feels uncertain. New ingredients, strong spices, unknown reactions. Even if it looks good, it carries risk. And the older mind naturally avoids risk, not because it is fearful, but because it is experienced. It has seen enough to know that small discomforts can become big problems. So it chooses caution. Now look at the emotional side again. Many old people connect food with people. A certain dish reminds them of someone. A simple meal may remind them of a spouse, a mother, a home that no longer exists. And when they eat that simple food, they are not just eating, they are remembering, they are reconnecting, they are sitting for a moment in a time that felt full, felt warm, felt complete. Fancy food cannot give that feeling because it does not carry history, it does not carry emotional weight. It is new, and new things do not always feel comforting in old age. Now, here is something very quiet but powerful. Control over food also gives a sense of independence. As people age, they slowly lose control in many areas. They may depend on others for movement, for health, for daily tasks. But choosing what to eat, how to eat, when to eat, this remains in their hands, and they protect it. They hold on to it, because it reminds them, I can still decide something for myself, and that feeling matters deeply. Now think about the body again. Teeth may become weaker, jaw strength reduces, so chewing hard or complex food becomes tiring. Simple food is easier, softer, gentler, and when eating becomes easier, the whole experience feels better. No strain, no discomfort, just quiet nourishment. Now there is also a change in appetite. Old people often feel less hunger, the body needs less fuel. So instead of large, heavy meals, they prefer small portions. And simple food fits naturally into this. It does not demand much. It does not overwhelm. It simply supports. Now here is something many people overlook. Simple food reduces regret. If they eat something heavy and feel discomfort later, that feeling stays with them. They remember it. So next time, they avoid it. They learn quickly. And over time, their choices become more careful, more refined, more minimal. Because they are not chasing pleasure anymore, they are avoiding pain. And this is a very human shift. Now let's look at social situations again. When old people sit at a table with others, they often choose the simplest option. Not because they cannot try new things, but because they do not want attention. If they struggle to eat something, if they react to food, if they feel discomfort, it becomes visible, and they want to avoid that. So they choose what feels safe, quietly, without explanation. This helps them stay comfortable without drawing attention. Now there is also something deeper happening inside. As life slows down, people begin to value peace over excitement. Fancy food is exciting. Simple food is peaceful. And in old age, peace wins almost every time because excitement requires energy. It creates stimulation, but peace gives rest, and rest becomes more valuable than anything else. Now, if you step back and look at the bigger picture, this is not just about food. This is about how humans change over time. In youth, we move toward more taste, more variety, more experience. In old age, we move toward less noise, less complexity, less pressure. And somewhere in that less, there is a quiet satisfaction, a calm acceptance, a feeling that says, this is enough. So when an old person chooses simple food, they are not missing out. They are settling into a different kind of richness, a richness that is not loud, not visible, not impressive, but deeply comfortable, deeply personal. And maybe this is something younger people rarely understand, that at some point in life, what feels simple on the outside can actually feel complete on the inside. And as this pattern continues, something very subtle begins to shape their daily life. Food becomes less about choice and more about rhythm. Morning comes, they know what they will eat. Afternoon comes, it is already decided. Evening comes, no thinking needed. This rhythm brings a quiet stability. Because when many things in life feel uncertain, a predictable routine feels like an anchor. Something that does not change, something that stays. And this staying has a deep emotional value. Now think about how much of life becomes unpredictable in old age. Health can change suddenly. Energy can drop without warning. Sleep becomes irregular. So when food remains simple and consistent, it gives a sense of order. A small piece of life that still feels controlled, still feels known. Now there is another layer that is rarely spoken about. As people grow older, their patience for discomfort becomes very low. Not because they are weaker, but because they have already experienced enough. They do not want unnecessary trouble anymore. A heavy meal that causes discomfort later feels like a bad trade, not worth it. So they begin to think differently. Not, will this taste good, but will this feel good later? This shift is very important. It shows a movement from momentary pleasure to long-term comfort, and simple food supports that. It is gentle now, and gentle later. No surprises, no regrets. Now let's look at emotional safety again. Food is one of the most personal experiences. It goes inside the body. It directly affects how they feel. So the older mind becomes protective, very protective. It avoids risk, even small risks. Because recovery is not as fast as before. A small discomfort can last longer, so they choose carefully, almost instinctively. Now there is also a quiet connection with dignity. Eating simple food allows them to stay independent. They can prepare it themselves. They can manage it easily. No need for help, no need for complicated steps. And this independence, even in small things, holds great emotional weight because losing independence is one of the deepest fears in old age, so they protect it wherever they can, even in food. Now think about something very simple: a warm cup of tea, a plain piece of bread. For a young person, this may feel ordinary, but for an older person, this can feel complete. Because it is not just about the food, it is about the moment, the quiet, the stillness, the familiarity. There is no rush, no distraction, just a simple act, fully experienced. And this kind of experience is something many people lose when they chase complexity. Now here is something deeper. As people age, they begin to detach from excess, not suddenly, slowly. They no longer feel the need to prove anything, not through lifestyle, not through choices. Even food becomes free from showing status. Fancy meals often carry a sense of display, of showing taste, of showing lifestyle. But old people move away from that. They no longer eat to impress. They eat to feel at ease, and that is a very honest place to be. Now consider loneliness again. If an older person lives alone, they may not feel motivated to cook complex meals, not because they cannot, but because there is no shared experience. Cooking something fancy for one person feels empty, so they choose something simple, something quick, something that does not remind them of what is missing, because sometimes a big meal only highlights the silence, while a small meal fits the quiet. Now there is also memory involved here. Cooking complex food requires attention, steps, timing, ingredients. But memory and focus are not as sharp as before, so simple food becomes practical. Less to remember, less to manage, more peace of mind. Now look at the deeper pattern again. This is not just physical. This is psychological adaptation. The mind is adjusting to protect comfort, to reduce stress, to maintain dignity. And all of this comes together in one small choice. What should I eat? And over time, that choice becomes simple, very simple, because simplicity reduces pressure, and pressure is something they are slowly removing from life. Now here is a quiet truth. Many old people do not miss fancy food. They miss the moments that used to come with it. Family gatherings, laughter, celebrations. It was never just the food, it was the feeling around it. And when those moments become rare, the food itself loses meaning. So they return to what still makes sense: simple meals, quiet settings, personal comfort. And maybe this is not a loss. Maybe it is a return to basics, a return to what the body accepts, what the mind understands, what the heart feels at peace with. So when you see an old person choosing simple food again and again, do not think they are limiting themselves. They are actually refining their life, removing what is unnecessary, keeping only what feels right. And in that quiet refinement, they find something many people spend their whole life chasing: a simple, steady, undisturbed sense of peace. And in the final stage of this shift, something very gentle becomes clear. Simple food is no longer just a preference. It becomes a form of peace. Not loud peace, not something you notice immediately. A quiet kind, the kind that sits in small moments. A plate that is not full, a taste that is not strong, a meal that does not demand attention. Everything feels settled. Now if you look closely, this mirrors something deeper inside them. Their life has already seen intensity, strong emotions, big moments, ups and downs. So in the later years, they naturally move away from extremes. Even in food, they are not searching for excitement anymore. They are protecting calm. And calm is very delicate. Too much spice disturbs it. Too much oil disturbs it. Too much variety disturbs it. So they keep things simple, so that nothing shakes their inner balance. Now think about how the body feels after eating. A simple meal leaves them light, able to sit, able to rest. But a heavy meal, it stays in the body. It demands attention. It creates discomfort. And in old age, any discomfort feels bigger than before. So they avoid it, not out of fear, but out of understanding. They know what comes after. They have learned it many times. Now, there is also something very quiet happening with time. Old people experience time differently. They are more aware of it, more connected to it. So they begin to value moments that are easy and smooth. A simple meal fits into this. It does not interrupt the flow of the day. It blends into it. No preparation stress, no after effects stress, just a smooth part of living. Now, here is something deeper than food. Simplicity becomes their language. In speech, in routine, in relationships, they speak less. They choose carefully. They avoid unnecessary complications. And food follows the same pattern, because everything begins to align. Mind, body, behavior, all moving toward ease. Now think about emotional weight. Heavy food can feel like a burden, not just physically, emotionally too. It feels like too much. And in old age, people naturally reduce too much. They remove extra noise, extra effort, extra demand, so they choose lightness in food, in life. Now there is also acceptance in this choice, a deep acceptance. They are no longer trying to change their body, no longer forcing themselves to enjoy what they used to. They accept what feels right now. And this acceptance brings peace, because resistance disappears. There is no inner conflict. No, I should eat this. No, I used to like that. Just a quiet knowing. This is enough for me now. And that feeling is very powerful. Now look at something very human. When people are young, they often connect happiness with more taste, more variety, more experience. But old people begin to see something else. That happiness can also exist in less noise, less effort, less complication. And simple food becomes a daily reminder of that truth. Now there is one more emotional layer. When someone offers them fancy food, they may accept politely, they may even taste it, but often they return to their simple meal later, because that is where they feel at home, not in excitement, but in familiarity. And familiarity is very comforting when everything else is slowly changing. Now think about the full picture. The body asks for ease, the mind asks for calm, the emotions ask for comfort. And simple food answers all three, quietly, without effort, without noise, just by being what it is, simple. So in the end, this is not just about aging. This is about understanding what truly matters when everything unnecessary begins to fall away. What remains is not complex. It is not impressive. It is not loud. It is something very basic, but very complete. A simple meal, a calm moment, a steady feeling inside. And maybe that is why, for many old people, simple food is not a limitation. It is a quiet kind of freedom. Freedom from excess, freedom from pressure, freedom from needing more. And in that freedom, they find a kind of satisfaction that does not fade quickly. A satisfaction that stays, just like the simple meals they choose day after day, without needing anything more.